Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is the latest installment in my Pride Month of movie reviews. So today I'm joined by Caleb from CalebSaysStuff. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm doing the duck lips. That's right. I'm Caleb over at CalebSaysStuff. I kind of have this weird like rocker meets Joker meets Kiki thing going on. I'm kind of into it.
He won't look all that much different, surprisingly. Just, I mean, a little bit less creepy if you go check out his channel.
I'm still kind of creepy.
So, I mean, you know, go check it out for yourself. See if you like him better with or without the makeup and the bow and the wig.
I like it all.
So, today we are reviewing Wong Foo. Thank you for everything, Julie Newmar.
The longest title ever.
The longest title. So
I actually chuckled when it came up. I don't know if you heard me.
Also, most commonly referred to as Wong Foo. So, Caleb had never seen this movie. It's kind of a campy drag icon film. It's kind of has its own cult classic status. But your expectations went in, you said there were like none.
I had none. I had no expectations whatsoever. I was just like, I'll just go along for the ride, see what it was all about. I pictured campy was the only thing that kind of expectation I had, and it definitely fulfilled that expectation.
I think that's a safe assumption with most LGBT themed films. You can expect them to better have that expectation low, and then expect some camp. The newer ones, not as much, like Call Me By Your Name and Moonlight, of course, like the Oscar nominees aren't quite in that vein. But if
I haven't seen any of those either.
If it deals with drag, it better have a little bit of camp. I mean, come on now. You can't do a drag film without some camp.
That was actually one of the things I brought up to you. I actually like the drag community because of the sense of humor of it. Like, this movie is totally pulling a lot of jokes at their expense. And it's just I think that's kind of cool. I love people who can laugh at themselves. And all people are kind of ridiculous in their own way, so I enjoyed that element of it.
So, let's just segue that right into positives on the film.
Yeah, that was my first positive.
Okay.
Wesley Snipes, I actually was kind of my surprise of the film. I thought he was pretty accurate in the role.
I think Wesley Snipes has the best one-liners throughout. Like, consistently, he doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue, per se. He just, chimes in, but every time Wesley Snipes opens his mouth in the film, you're just like, yes.
Yeah, no.
Either relatable or I love that line. Great. I found it.
It was weird, because seeing Wesley Snipes all built was, the one I was like, oh, I'm never going to be able to believe him in this role. I kind of believed him almost the most in that role.
And then Patrick Swayze, I thought was very good as well. Actually, I think all three of our leads do a very good job with the different characters that they're supposed to be portraying. With Wesley Snipes being so big and built, Patrick Swayze just looked huge too, doesn't he? He just looked humongous this entire film.
I didn't realize, was he a really tall guy? Because he looked massive in this movie. And I was like, I don't know if just putting him in women's clothing made him look bigger, but he looked like a beast of a human being in this movie.
And then John Leguizamo is obviously the most over the top, the most dramatic of the three leads there.
I would say he, as far as a character, has the most growth from beginning to end, and is probably the most well-rounded character, actually, by all of them, which I didn't expect, because starting off, he was definitely the comedic relief, and he is through the entire movie.
The entire movie, yeah. But he's the only one who really gets his own side plots, Patrick Swayze's character deals with other people's side plots, he's helping other people constantly. Wesley Snipes doesn't really grow all that much. I mean, he has a speech about growing at the end, but you're kind of like, I mean, I guess if you see it, but his character kind of just stays the same. He helps the little old lady out, and he's just kind of chilling. But John Leguizamo is the one who has multiple development. He makes a lot of mistakes, but he also does a lot of things right. And really comes out a better person in general.
Yeah, I felt like he was the character that actually felt the most like a person through the entire film. That I actually sympathized most with. There's that scene where he has a crush on one of the boys of the town that I actually did feel for his character and the emotional situation that he was in. I found that character the most fascinating out of all of them by a mile. Also the funniest.
And that's actually, I think, a pretty big testament when you're able to really sympathize with the character that essentially is deceiving another character. They're building up this lie but you still have a lot of sympathy for their side and their plight as well.
Well,
I think that's
even
very
when we were
strong.
watching it, I go, I actually kind of, my heart goes out to both of these people. The guy who doesn't know he's in love with another man, and the man who is in love with the guy who doesn't know. For a surprisingly campy movie, that moment was deeper than it probably needed to be.
Yeah.
And I respected that.
And I think obviously this has early to mid 90s flair, 80s too. I mean, they were all about this type of film as well. The feel good, the the beats of all of those films with maybe less groundbreaking packaging. But once you get into that package, it has the formula of so many early 90s and 80s films that were feel good types. Maybe they're not my favorite or your favorite types of films, but there's always a place for these kind of heartwarming, just nice, easy breezy kind of films.
Yeah, there was something that I enjoyed about this, and it is that nostalgia play of like, these are films of a bygone era, which sounds weird because it's all in the 90s, but they don't make movies quite like this anymore. And it was campy, and it was cheesy, and it had that like feel-good moment message by the end. But they don't make films like that anymore. And yes, it's unrealistic, but that's kind of the whole point of it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to see that.
And I do love that we get to a point, because I feel like, especially watching it, are these people just so dumb? They're never going to catch on. I really enjoy actually that moment of realization where the woman is just like, you're Adam's apple. Like, I've known this whole time. I'm not as stupid as you all think I am. And I think that, obviously not the boy, but I think that might have been the case, more than just the woman.
I think it was, the very beginning. I would like to think, because at first I was like, oh man, is just everybody just really dumb in this thing? Because these are obviously men. But by the end of it, I was like, okay, I like that they addressed that, because that was one of my things that was going to be a complaint of the film. Yeah. But by the end, when they addressed it, I was like, oh, okay, that they knew the whole time. I was like, okay, that makes more sense.
And of course, it's a really nice message when you're speaking of acceptance, that it goes both ways. So when you're using like the gay stereotype versus the redneck, small town, bigot stereotype, it's always nice to have both of them learn to understand the other one, and then be like, hey, screw it.
That was one thing that I really like, because it sounds weird. That's something you don't see anymore, which is weird. In 2018, you think you'd see more of people saying less stereotypes, but it starts off as a film where the rednecks are very stereotype-filled, to the point where it bothered me. The gay people, the drag queens, are very, very stereotype-filled, and to the point where it bothered me. But then it gets to the point where it's like, yeah, we're more complex than our stereotypes. And I did enjoy that element to it. I think we need more of that in cinema, personally. Yeah.
All right. So as for negatives, the first negative that even Caleb brought up, and instantly revisiting this film, drag queens versus cross-dressing versus transsexual. Like, this film misrepresents what a drag queen is.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because someone who doesn't know really, drag queen culture by any stretch of the imagination, I even turned to Larry and I go, don't drag queens only dress up, like, they don't wear this all the time, do they? And this movie, they wear it all the time. This is more of
they have sleeping gowns, and, part of you wonders, okay, are they doing this to try to keep up a facade so they can't risk it? But even in the car and stuff, there's no need, it's just once they get into town, I'm like, okay, so they have to keep up some sort of facade. They think, that they don't want a riot or people to kill them. But no drag queen I know, and I can't imagine any of the ones I don't know, would volunteer to take a road trip from New York City to LA in drag the entire time. That sounds horrible.
Another thing is, when they wore the wigs to go to sleep, even, I would assume, drag... Okay, so someone who's literally wearing my first wig now, like, I've set one on my head. I put my wife's one on my head one time. But this is, like, actually wearing it. This is miserable. There's no way you're sleeping in this. And any person who I know, I've never known a drag queen on this level by any sense, but I'm assuming no chance in hell they would wear that wig while they sleep. I know women who wear wigs, that I do know, and that wig comes off the second they lay down. Before they lay down.
Because you don't want to mess up your wig.
Yeah.
You're going to sleep in it and mat it up. Two, so they talk about pores and makeup. They're sleeping in like full-on geesh, full-on makeup here, and it's like, okay, come on. You would wipe that off.
I'm trying not to wipe this off right now.
Off of your face. But so I think, of course, again, it's another earlier film. I mean, it came out relatively the same time as like Priscilla and as The Birdcage, which both deal with drag queens as well. But it's just it's an unfortunate, I guess, especially looking back, it dates itself in the fact that it is a bit of a misrepresentation. It kind of muddles the water of what drag is and being the different spectrums of gender bending, I guess. It gets real confusing because then you are like, well, this is just cross-dressing. You're not transsexual because you're not wanting to be a woman.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're a woman. You're just never get out of drag.
That was my thing. I felt like this was a transgendered movie closer to, but it really wasn't that either. Yeah. Because they, except for, I would say, John Leguizamo's character, I would say, is the only one who I do feel like wants to be a woman or identifies as a woman. I feel like the other characters clearly don't.
No.
Especially Wesley Snipes' character. Clearly does not. Clearly, they call each other, you're a boy. They say all this stuff to each other constantly, you're a man. And I do agree, that was one of my major complaints, that going back, and it's a product of its time, going back now that this is more mainstream and watching it was a little confusing to see what they, like I said, I was like, it kind of feels more like it's a transgendered movie, but it's not that either because they don't identify.
Yeah. It's just it's in a weird gray area that doesn't really fit with any of them. I think maybe I also would have liked another performance or two added in. More drag of it all.
Actually, so going in, I didn't even know it was about a road trip. The beginning, I don't know if you noticed, I was laughing more in that part and more interested in. I would like to see this movie, and I don't like to grade movies based on what I wanted them to be, but rather just going into the world of drag. This is not that movie. It's definitely a movie about drag queens on a road trip, not going into the world of drag.
What are some other negatives you had regarding the film?
The writing is horrible. The dialogue's awful. It's a bad movie. I mean, I will go out and say that. It's not a good movie, but I did enjoy it. Is that makes sense? Like, I didn't hate it. It's not a movie that I would ever go back and watch again, but it's not a movie that I would trash on either. It was in a weird place for me.
And I forgot, I guess, in our positives, I do like that they touch on, like, when we're speaking on stereotypes, it deals with a few issues in there, so not just homophobia, and you do have that obviously, but a lot of race issues as well, that I think are just kind of like sprinkled in, because you do have like Wesley Snipes as part of your crew, you have John Leguizamo, so I mean, way back in '95, it's checking off those diversity boxes, and then at least it does something with them, which I was like, oh, that's
I agree, and like I said, it does. That's like one of the negatives is the amount of stereotypes. I do feel like it's chock full of them, but they kind of resolve it at the end and shows that we're not all the stereotypes, so it kind of fixes itself toward the end for me, but it definitely, there is this like coastal elitism too in it, where it's like, oh, well, all these people in the center are just bumbling idiots and they don't know anything, and there's also a lot of gay stereotypes. It's chock full of stereotypes, but it's in all in good fun, and I'm a firm believer of, I'm not a sensitive type person who gets offended by anything. So I think as long as it's done in tastefully but in good fun, I don't really see too much harm in it. So it didn't bother me too bad, because I feel like they tried to do it in a fun, loving way, and it had a positive message by the end. Kind of. It was a weird movie.
It's like a little feel-good strawberry fest at the end.
I also got bothered by the social element. I was like, how many people live in this town?
Oh, yeah.
And apparently I commented on how age means nothing here, because like there's like a young guy who's like 20. He just goes up to like the 50-year-old woman because you gotta... Because
there's like this gang of hoodlums.
Yeah.
And of course, especially when you have these type of films that fit into this box of filmmaking, issues resolve way faster than they ever could resolve. I mean, this realistically takes place from a Saturday to a Monday. They get into town on that Friday night and they leave on Monday. And suddenly the town is a completely new place. Over the course of a weekend, all of these people are just brand new. You have parts where, like, these little hoodlums suddenly respect women, and it's just like, oh, okay, wow, that was... if only the whole world could, like, start seeing so quickly when they're wrong.
It kind of just kind of like wraps everything up with a pretty little bow on it, pretty easily. Like I agree, it's just like overnight, everyone completely changes their worldview. But it didn't bother me like it should have.
And there are some moments where the kid walks up behind the younger girl and mistakes her for Chi-Chi.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh gosh, like no.
No.
I mean, she's white and blonde.
Yeah, and
like to start you off,
quarter of the size.
That's your first clue. Like so, you have those, and there's also, I guess I hadn't noticed before. It's been a while since I've watched the film, and I wasn't necessarily looking. There are some really weird cuts, like horrible cuts in this movie that just completely jarred me this time. These really just not even fade to black, just sliced it to black. And then start somewhere new cuts that I was like, oh.
There was one.
Oh my.
I don't know the exact scene, but I can tell you it was when it was on Patrick Swayze, where it cut so hard it felt like a commercial break in a movie.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
in a show, it was weird.
Yeah, it was crazy. I don't. Those cuts, I guess, I had not noticed before, and I was like, oh, this is strange.
No,
but,
it's jarring.
Yeah. Especially again looking at it, but even looking at it as a 1995 film, they don't cut like that. It was a very strange.
There's
cut.
1950s films,
like,
they don't cut like that.
Snow White doesn't cut like that. Like,
no. It literally cuts, fades real quick, and comes in like it felt like a cut on the TV.
Like with no continuity from that last cut. So they just cut and start. You're in a fresh place, like a fresh new area. You're like, oh, where are we now? What's going on? So this was like your first drag related film, correct?
Yes, I've never seen Birdcage. I've never seen.
I was telling them about Priscilla. That's coming.
Even honestly,
month.
Even just LGBT films in general, I haven't seen. I think I've seen Brokeback Mountain at one point in time, and I think that's it.
Yeah.
Like I've seen stuff obviously with gay characters in it, but nothing where it would fall into that. And so this would probably be my first, even in that whole umbrella, I would say.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I'd say we introduced him here to one of the campier ones for sure.
Yes. So I
was like, I definitely don't think that the Birdcage is as campy as this one. It's a whole lot of fun. Also starring Robin Williams, who makes a cameo here.
The cameo from Robin Williams was actually really good.
So good.
Well.
How about that Julie cameo at the end of the video?
I know. Even when they brought up her name, I Googled it. I was like, that's a real actress, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Yes, they didn't make her up. But I hope you had fun.
I did.
I'm so glad you joined on to be a part of this series for Pride Month.
Where's my fist?
Yay!
Yeah.
And then we're going to slowly but surely just infiltrate Caleb's life a little bit. I've been bugging him about a particular LGBT film that I love.
I know. I'm putting my hair behind my ears and looking like a creeper real quick.
It's a lot less campy than this one.
I still need to see Moonlight. Everyone says I like it.
Best Picture winner, Moonlight.
God, this is awful. How do you do this?
If you've seen Brokeback, that's another obvious one.
I saw
should have been Best Picture winner, Brokeback Mountain. Crash.
I love Crash. I choose Crash over Brokeback Mountain. I know I shouldn't say that in Pride Month. It's like a sin, but
it's okay.
I also saw that when I was 15 when it came out.
I was I don't hate Crash. Internet hates Crash, but
why is that a thing now?
I mean, pretty much if anything wins an award, or if anything makes too much money, or if people like something, that means we gotta hate it, right?
Because Crash is a good movie.
You heard it here first. Controversial take. The biggest one of the film.
I know.
Or of this review here.
Crash is. That's not a good look.
No. Well.
I'm not a pretty drag queen.
This is like baby bearded drag here. This is like baby drag queen. First time in drag. Rocking that beard. We threw some makeup. We didn't have glitter. She couldn't quite jump on that glitter beard train.
Yeah. Is that drag or is that just hipster? Because I see hipsters do it.
Well, there's legit drag, so they'll rock the ball gown and glitter their beard out. Yeah.
See, I know nothing.
We'll teach them all the words too. Do you know what a fishy queen is?
No, but I do know the other words because one of my good friends, Adam. So if you're watching this, Adam, you've taught me some words that I never knew I needed to know. I knew now I know what twink, otter, bear means. I know what daisy chaining is, which I did not need to know what that is. And I mean, he taught me every terminology. He's taught me all of it.
All of it?
Told me all of it.
Oh, okay.
More than I ever wanted to know for some of the things.
Just not the drag queen?
Not the drag queen.
Not the different
but
categories.
He does want to take me to Hamburger Mary's. So,
Hamburger Mary's.
Yeah.
Oh, for brunch? Are you gonna rock a brunch?
I should.
You are in Colorado.
This is the brunch state.
We love us a good brunch. What's better than brunch? Brunch with drag queens.
Yes.
That's what's. There you go. So yeah, again, want to tell people where they can find you, follow you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm at CalebSaysStuff on all social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Vero, Snapchat, all of it. All CalebSaysStuff. YouTube.com/CalebSaysStuff. Please comment there, like there, or dislike it there. Just check it out.
Awesome. And obviously, if you liked this video, make sure to hit like down below and subscribe to this channel so you are always up to date on our latest movie reviews. And have you seen To Wong Foo? If you have, what do you think of this film? And what are some of your favorite drag queen centered movies? Let us know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit either one of us up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!